Everybody, recently I saw the movie Zootopia 2 with my son, and Zootopia 2 was a pretty decent movie. It was not bad at all. It was a sequel that I think did some new things. Of course, there were some things that they did that were just kind of rehashing from the original, which is like, come up with a new idea. But generally speaking, it was not a bad movie. But it got me thinking about the fact that sometimes things that are true to life are not necessarily good for movies and the way that movies are structured and written. And you might be saying to yourself, well, what do you mean? This is a cartoon movie, Kev. It's, what do you mean true to life? Well, I know that it's a cartoon movie and, it's talking animals, and that's not true. But what I'm talking about is more from the character perspective. So let me explain what I mean. In Zootopia 1, if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to give spoilers on the plot, but basically there's a little bunny rabbit that is a police cop, and in Zootopia, where there's a bunch of walking, talking animals. And she kind of realizes throughout the course of the movie that she should believe in herself a bit more, that she's more capable than she thinks. And she also realizes, though, that she can be the best version of herself with help. And the help that she gets is with a fox, who the fox is kind of sly and cunning like a fox is, played by Jason Bateman. And the idea for him is he learns how to stop being such a lone, off to himself fox, and to be engage and try to care about his community, have a partner, that kind of thing. So by the end of the movie, the two of them have become partners, and they've learned to get over their differences and stuff. Very common movie trope of, opposites learning how to work together. Zootopia 2, they try to do new things in it. However, from the character perspective, they take a step back. And this is what I mean by saying some things movie-wise don't work. In real life, people oftentimes will take a step back after they have a moment of clarity. Where you learn to believe in yourself, but then something shakes your confidence and you become a little bit more nervous and a little bit more guarded again. Or you might learn to become less selfish, but then, something really tempting comes along and kind of takes you a step back. Maybe you get selfish again before you have the same lesson. This is true to life. It happens. It's real. It's a genuine psychological part of life that we don't always fully learn a lesson until we have a couple of repeats, and different factors may change the way that we react and make us go back into old habits. The problem with movies, though, are movies, if you repeat yourself, it feels like a narrative cheat. It feels like they're being lazy. So in the movie, there's a kind of step back where the bunny, again, is kind of dominating, and she's still brave, but she kind of loses the whole "I need to have friends to help me" part. And the fox kind of goes back into being kind of slick and cool and carefree. And then as the movie goes along, he, talks about the fact that he has some commitment issues and things like that. And he realizes that he really does care about his friend, the bunny, and so forth. So they take a step back. And again, it's true to life. It's not fake. It doesn't feel fake. It doesn't feel false, but it does feel like they're repeating themselves, and they're lacking the true identity. Now, of course, there's a new story, which is cool. The story is a little bit more complex in certain ways, the plot, I should say, but the character relationships basically take a step back. And I've noticed this with a lot of movies where they don't realize this, that the character needs to learn a different lesson, even though in real life they may learn the same lesson over and over again. I noticed this in the Toy Story films, where basically, Tom Hanks as Woody figures out, yes, I don't want to just be put up on a shelf. I want to be played with, and I'm going to ride it out, even though Andy, I know, is going to grow up and one day stop playing with me. But the next three movies repeat this story where, it's with different wrinkles and it's true to life for people to have to realize these things again and again. But from an audience perspective, it feels like lazy writing. And it's not necessarily lazy writing. It's just one of the issues with film, that film feels different than real life. And so the rules are a little different, that generally speaking, a character needs to go through a new arc. One thing that I noticed with Back to the Future is they figured this out a little bit, where in the first film, Marty was kind of a carefree teenager, and he learned how important his family is to his legacy and helping out his parents. In the second film, though, they couldn't repeat that. So Marty had to go through a little bit of a journey where he figured out he was too brave and afraid of being called chicken, and it created problems for him. And then he slowly, by the third film, realizes through maturity that stepping away is not always the wrong thing to do. Sometimes it is the mature thing to do. And I've seen that with some other films too, where they have a film series that repeats itself. I thought that they did it pretty well in the Batman, Chris Nolan movies. Batman does seem to go a bit on a journey to realizing what his version of Batman really should be. He does seem to mature as time goes along. But most trilogies, really any movies that have sequels seem to have this problem of they don't know how to have the characters have new arcs. So they basically have the person step back a bit emotionally and go through the same thing all over again, which again is realistic, but it doesn't feel right. It feels like a trick on the audience. It feels like lazy writing. So anyway, what are your thoughts on the subject? Are you okay with them basically repeating storylines with characters, or do you really feel that fresh plots for the characters, fresh lessons, deepens the experience? I definitely am more towards the latter. Love you guys. Talk to y'all again soon. Bye.